You're listening to the Everyday Astrology Podcast. I'm Hilary Scott, your astrologer, and I'm here to bring you the current planetary conditions. So on the 6th of September, we have a super potent new moon in Virgo at 5:52 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you can kind of figure out where you are on that. The new moon, especially leading up to the new moon, the few days before the new moon, are often incredibly withdrawn and sleepy times. It's like a good time, and you might not even be able to stop yourself from needing a nap and feeling dozy and not being kind of sharp. It's like the opposite of the charge that we get during the full moon. So if you are feeling kind of like that you need to take a nap and you need to chill out and relax, definitely take time to do that. And especially because of the Virgo energy, it's very much anything that you do to kind of nurture your health and your well-being, or the health and well-being of your loved ones. It's very well rewarded. It very much coincides with the kind of energy that we've got in the sky right now with the earth energy. So if you want to do some sort of like gardening or cooking or even organizing and decorating can be really helpful, and just sort of purging at this time, especially as we have led up to the full moon on the 6th of September. And that new moon in Virgo has got a trine between Mars and Pluto. And that's like really big, like deep diving kind of energy. Like, so that if you want to get to the bottom of things, or if you want to, like, even if you were to do like a major clean out, or like, you know, I went through this phase where I watched that show Hoarders, and I would be like, wow, I definitely don't have a problem. If this is what's going on in the world, I'm good. So, but that's the kind of level of like excavation of your home and your environment that you could do because of the Pluto and the Mars energy trining each other. So be open to that. Be open to kind of digging deep and figuring out what's wrong or what isn't wrong. Pluto often will bring up what we need to sacrifice, what we need to let go of in order to move forward. So the more like detached, I guess, we can be from what isn't good for us, the better we have it, like the better and more capable we are of moving forward. But there can kind of, you know, be a struggle to figure out what that is, or even being willing to relinquish what isn't good for us. So keep that in mind. It's the Pluto in Capricorn is very kind of like executive order type, and Mars is action. So there's some kind of like action needed to take place. Some sort of decisions need to be made, and like understanding has to be come to, essentially. That same day of the new moon, there's a really lovely and also helpful trine. The trines are kind of supportive and helpful, generally speaking. And there's a trine between Venus and Jupiter. And that, like, and it's sort of like an uplifting, like a luck-inducing, uplifting, maybe you're going to get a good idea, something that you value is going to kind of fall in your lap. That's a nice one. Also kind of purchases that are lucky, like maybe you buy something beautiful for your home, or maybe even property, depending on what you value is the area that is activated. So just be kind of open to the good things that can come. Even in the middle of a shitstorm, really great things can happen. And oftentimes it is the, you know, after the storm of shit that we realize that, hey, I needed to let go of things. I needed to relax. I needed to, you know, change course. And because of this constant trine, or not trine, square we're under from Saturn and Uranus all year, and it's going on until next year too. So great. There's this like shakeup of the old and the new. This Saturn's trying to hold on and keep it the same, and Uranus is like, no, we're going to shake up this situation. So it's not easy. It's definitely, you can look around in our world today and see it very well represented. So hang in there, because it can be hard on your nervous system. It can be hard on your like just like the level of stress that's constant the whole time can be really exhausting. So do what you can to take care of yourself, ground yourself. I really think that to get through all this with our health and our sanity intact, it's probably a really good idea to connect to the earth plane, because we need to be grounded. We need to be like it stabilizes us. Any kind of like working with plants, or even putting your feet on the dirt or some quality rough cement is better than asphalt. But just getting yourself into nature, listen to the birds, look at the sun, smell the air. You have to kind of, not just you, but we and everybody needs to like ground ourselves and detach from what's going on around us. I think that is ultimately super important. Otherwise, we're kind of like thrown into the manipulation of everything that's going on. So use your spidey senses and your incredibly discerning intuition, which is going to be heightened during this new moon, to figure out what the right choice is to make, figure out what you need to do. There's also a trine to the sun and the moon from Uranus, again, activating that like old and new kind of power struggle. But the trine, again, is supportive. So their Uranus energy might just kind of give you the kick in the pants you need to move in a new direction, to do something different. And it's hard to like get out of your comfort zone. It's super tricky and hard, especially in today's world. It's not an easy place to be, to like, it doesn't seem like a new beginnings kind of place, right? Everything's changing and shutting down and feels like a lot more like an endings place. So the new moon is about figuring out the seeds you want to plant and clearing the decks. And so it's tricky because you got to project into the future what you want to create and be willing to go outside your comfort zone, to think outside the box, because Uranus is there shaking up the, like it's just flipped the board game and the pieces are scattered everywhere. And we need to kind of figure out for ourselves what we value and what we're going to focus our energy on and what we're going to do, because probably whatever is out of the norm and outside the mainstream kind of storylines will be the best direction to go. It's tricky. It's super tricky times, and there's like a lot of pressure on all of us to step up and transform. So this new moon with the Virgo energy should give you a real eagle eye ability to think outside the box and figure out what you need to do to move forward. So also, it can just be simple. Like you may need to organize your abode, or maybe you need to quit sugar, or maybe you need to stop scrolling on your phone, or like the swiftness with which we all adapted to our smartphones is kind of terrifying when you consider that they're now capable of using them to trace our every move and surveil us. Like we just kind of ran with it. Here's your tracking device, and we're going to make it so smart and handy for you that you're just not going to be able to live without it. That's like super shitty because it happened so fast. Like, gosh, it's probably like been 10 years, right? Maybe even less that we've all had smartphones. So yikes. And that's going on in Canada where I am. They've announced the vaccine passport. So if you want to go to restaurants or sporting events or concerts or museums or pretty much any kind of public gathering, you can't go unless you've been double injected. So I listened to Naomi Wolf do a talk about how basically the software that they're using, or the platform that they're using to do that, is the same platform that they use in China for their social credit system. So it really does allow them to kind of scan the population and pick out the dissidents and kind of threaten to remove food and money and everything that you might need based on these like slippery little sneaky injection passports that they want everybody to carry. So there's a lot of protests going on and stuff in Canada about that. Obviously, it's happening all over the world too. And again, the media here in Canada is totally spinning it and acting like it's everybody that's gathering to try and stand up for the healthcare workers and the nurses and the doctors and anybody that has been. Oh, that's another thing. The passports, and they're mandating it for basically any person that is working and government regulated. So it's like healthcare workers, it's city workers, police officers, a whole bunch of different, like whatever you can think of that is government regulated, daycares, community centers, everything. So there's a lot of like people standing up and upset about it, right? Because obviously the people that don't want it have not gotten it. So now they're literally cornering and forcing the people that have already chosen not to get it. So it's kind of a big deal. But then the media spins it as these selfish anti-vaxxers and everyone, I'm always surprised at how people like fall for everything that the media is telling them. It just like shocks me. But that's kind of going on here. So that struggle between the old and the new is really intense. Like it's kind of, you know, crazy, shocking stuff that's going on. And also the fact that that we're just sort of handing it over. Like it seems like the majority populace is kind of just fine about it. Even thinks, well, I've had to have vaccines to travel, so what's the big deal if I have to have a vaccine to go to a restaurant or to go to a museum? Like, it gets me all riled up, which I'm trying not to be anymore. I'm trying to stay calm and centered about it because getting all riled up really irritates my family. That's why I'm trying to stay calm. There's no point in getting all riled up. But it is, I mean, if there's going to be a hill to die on, like freedom seems like an important one. So the new moon, Virgo, you're going to see the flaws. You're going to see what you need to do to change and evolve the situation, what you need to do to take care of your health more, what you need to do to take care of even your mental health. Also, your psychological health, emotional health, all of the gentle treatments are ruled by Virgo. So acupuncture or not things that aren't going to compromise your health, things that are more like bolstering. Bach's flower remedies are really Virgoian, and acupuncture and, you know, using like Chinese medicine has everything you need. Every food is like listed on how it heals you, what system in the body that it works on. So, you know, if you have heart problems, you can make sure that you eat extra oats are really good in strengthening through the heart, or beetroot or walnuts, I think is on that list that are good for the heart. Quinoa is really nurturing, barley. So there's these like pathways of energetics that Chinese medicine has traced. This is so Virgo. And you can figure out, oh, I'm a little sluggish, or my eyesight is blurry, or I need, you know, there's so many little bits of information in Chinese medicine. I just love it. So if you need to figure out, like, I'm getting headaches, maybe you have too much heat in your body and you need to have more cooling foods like cucumber or yogurt or cooling stuff. So it's all very detailed, and it could be very helpful to look at things that way with as far as traditional Chinese medicine goes, because it gives you kind of these tools that are so like, yeah, of course food should be our medicine. It makes sense that we came onto the earth and that the earth can feed us and take care of us. I mean, health doesn't come from the end of a needle. So enjoy this new moon energy. Make the most of it. Write down what you want. Lists are super good with Virgo energy. Any kind of list you can come up with. Write out all your plans. Figure out maybe you need to do a graph or you need to do a spreadsheet of some kind. That would be a really good thing to do with the Virgo energy. It's just such a clear-headed, precise, and ultimately like good-seeking energy. Virgo really is like lovely energy. It can be critical. I mean, when it's out of balance, it can be anxious and it can be critical. It can be like super, I guess anxious and critical is really kind of the worst of Virgo ultimately. Because feeling, or they can be hypochondriac too, thinking there's something wrong all the time because they're like sensitive instruments that can kind of like sniff reality and feel the vibrations and what's right and what's wrong and where things are off. So it can make them a little kind of, I was going to say crazy, but crazy is not the right word. It's like just so conscious of everything. It's hard to be that aware. So be careful that you don't, because of this acute awareness, you don't kind of slip into addiction. On the 7th, the day after the new moon, we have an opposition between the moon and Neptune, a trine between the moon and Pluto, and then it's also conjunct with Mars. So again, it's another real intense kind of day. So you might be kind of tired of all the intensity. Like, it's a lot. One thing is, though, if you keep moving through it and you keep like kind of going through whatever waves of whatever comes up, by the time you get to the other side of the wave, you're like, empty, and you feel better and you can be more clear-headed. Just try not to indulge in a way that is escapism, because that will just block your progress. And that can happen with Neptunian energy. We want to like escape this like mundane, like, awful, painful, crazy world and kind of merge with the sublime, which, heroin's great at, but that's not good for you. So you probably shouldn't do it. That's like, you just want to be careful. Neither is scrolling or shopping. Every addiction ultimately takes us away from our center and who we need to be and what we need to process. So use the Neptunian energy to tap into your artist self and maybe write a poem or a song, or, connect with animals or communicate with your spirit guides, or the earth angels or fairy magic or whatever. You can use Neptune to be so magical. It doesn't have to kind of blot out your existence by being addicted to unhealthy substances. With Pluto trining that day also, there's again that intensity, that like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. If you're so inclined to the Plutonian energy and have it in your chart, then you can use it for your greater good, essentially. Because if you have Pluto strong in your chart, then you're going to do a lot of deep diving. That's just how you'll be kind of wired. And it's super enlivening to allow yourself to kind of go to the dark places and kind of take a trek through the underworld, and you come up refreshed and clearer and understanding more. So just let yourself go through the processes of whatever you need to go through, and you might have a lot of stuff coming up right now. On the 8th, the moon will be conjunct Mercury, and Saturn is going to be trine the moon as well. So it's another, like, I just think there'll be a lot of clear thoughts, a lot of important ideas coming through that can help you move on. Sometimes it's really difficult when stuff is coming from the depths because you have to process it, and it really kind of throws you off your game. And processing it is really just a matter of feeling it. And feeling it can be scary because sometimes it can be a lot of feelings. And if you're like kind of an emotional adverse person, then it's hard to not try to run away from what you're feeling. But I think kind of the nice conglomerate of planets that we've got going on right now, you should be able to like feel your feelings, hold the space, let them come up, like do what you need to do, like whatever that may be. Maybe you need to cry, maybe you need to yell, maybe you need to beat a pillow, maybe you need to shovel some dirt. Digging is hard. If you do some digging, it's exhausting. So if you're really frustrated and you need to get rid of some energy, go dig a hole somewhere. I swear, it's like seriously good effort. And I remember, like, on our property, I had 3 dogs die in the 14 years that we lived on our property, and they all got buried in our yard. And I remember, most people would, I guess, give the vet the body or whatever, but we had a spot, and so I always wanted to bring them home. And they're big dogs, Dobermans, so it was a big hole that you had to dig. And I'd start digging, and I'd cry and dig and cry and dig, and the digging was like somehow like a release of the grief. And I'd usually get like a foot down, and then I'd be like, oh, I can't do any more digging. And then my hubby would heroically come in and dig the holes for me, which I super appreciated. But the digging, I think, is kind of a grief release. There's a reason we've kind of got to bury the dead. And I think part of it is literally just the digging for our own sanity and to release the stuck feelings of the grief or it could get stuck, which we don't want. It's not healthy for us. So let yourself do what you need to do to process whatever comes up. So you're a clear and focused, certain energy that can beam clear, focused, certain energy to the world, because the world needs that right now. definitely. On the 10th, we have Venus moving into Scorpio. That's intense, more intensity, because Scorpio values the intensity and Venus is all about values. So there will be like a definite, it's serious business. It's like about loyalty and commitment and connection and kind of like the to death do us part energy or off with your head energy. It depends on where you're at in the relationship. But it is, I think, definitely going to be more intense. If you're not inclined to the intensity, you might not enjoy it. But if you are, then you can really capitalize on it. It could be really creative. You could feel yourself kind of like the energy flowing really well through you with Venus going through Scorpio. So again, be open to it. Be open to what comes up because it's powerful times we're in and powerful energy that we're negotiating. And you got to feel what you got to feel so that you can move through it. And even with Virgo will know, the Virgo energy will help you to know what you need to do to take care of yourself. You'll get a clear message. Maybe you'll all of a sudden an article on magnesium will pop up and say, hey, if you have these symptoms, you might be magnesium deficient. And then all of a sudden hey, I need some magnesium, which you probably do because most people on earth do. So that sort of thing, look for clues, look for what you need to do, listen to your inner self, listen to your heart, because it'll tell you what you need to do to improve, to lay a more solid foundation, to be your kind of best version of yourself, which I think is what we're all working on here. I mean, really, sometimes I have no idea what the hell is going on, but I do know the astrology is kind of like really accurate for what we're going through as a society and a humanity right now. So just hang in there. That's all we can do is just hang in there. We came here for a reason. That's for sure. The weekend after the Venus moves into Scorpio is like a little better. There's more harmonious aspects. It's still going to be intense, but in a way that maybe there is an opposition to Uranus, so there could be some surprises that you weren't expecting. So keep that in mind. But it can also help you just bust out of a rut. Like maybe all of a sudden you take a trip you wanted to take but were reluctant to, or you just sort of like, bam, I'm myself all of a sudden. I'm not going to be kind of accommodating anything that isn't myself. That's the sort of Uranus energy coming in. Although the Scorpio energy, it does want to kind of fuse. So it's not, the Uranus can be quite selfish and like self-motivated, even though it's the humanitarian energy. That's a much more abstract idea, but Scorpio is very intense and it likes to merge. That's why it's the sign of like sexuality and psychotherapy, and pretty much every taboo that you can think of is under the domain of Scorpio and Pluto. So that depth can be achieved right now, and it can be, it can help you commit and connect like loyally to someone else's loyal heart and have you be like in something that is very deep and rewarding. So that kind of is on the table for the weekend. So use the energy well. Maybe write in your journal. You'll probably come up with some really good insights during this week. Like write your lists, write down your insights. It's really good energy to kind of allow yourself to express everything that's going on, especially if you can pull yourself away from the what's going on in the world and focus on what you can do to keep yourself balanced and healthy and organized and on top of your game. That's going to be your best bet for this weekend. So I hope that you have a most potent and healing and insightful Virgo new moon. It really is a powerful time for us to see very, very clearly. And even though Neptune is coming right around the corner with an opposition, it still helps you get in touch with the magic that allows us to create the reality that we're here to create. So thank you so much for listening.